So getting more clients. Why would you want to get more clients, Leigh? What would be a good reason to get more clients?
I don't want to get more clients. Depends which clients you want. Why would you want to get more clients? Well, they pay your bills, don't they? They're the ones who essentially they're going to spend money with you on your services, products, your business. And I think it's one of the missing links to the whole pricing equation right now. We're seeing a lot on social media, everybody chasing the price point, trying to climb the ladder of charging more. And without knowing the full equation of that, I think getting more clients can be ignored. And if getting more clients is ignored, I think there's an expiration date on how much money you're going to make with those new prices. And it depends on your strategy, right? If you're trying to price yourself out of what you're doing, that's fine. You don't need new clients. You just keep putting your price up until you're making enough off of the clients you already have, and you go on your merry way. But if you're looking for longevity in your career, it kind of makes sense to never not be marketing and having a kind of a drip of new clients, especially for like a lot of these young barbers starting out. It's important to develop and understand the stream of new clientele coming in.
Yeah, I see a lot of the stuff right now online, like you mentioned, as too short term when it comes to thinking about it. And what I mean by that is like, it's all well and good to chase the high price point and want to make more money now, but like, how long can that go on for without it like burning out, or without the candle kind of burning out on both ends? Because, I saw another piece of content from someone yesterday saying like, and it was a valid point, right? Very valid point. But it was like something along the lines of, when you do bring your prices up, you can use it to do two things. You either buy time back or you keep doing the same amount of clients and make more money. Valid point. But what we need to remember is like, we do also need the time in order to set ourselves up for the future, to get ourselves out of the thing. Like, the exit strategy isn't spoken about enough in the tactics. And sometimes it's hard to think about the exit strategy when we're in the thing, because it feels like we're going to be doing it forever. When I first started cutting hair, I was like, this is it now. Like, this is my life. Like, get me the tattoo. Like, this is me sorted. I don't want to kind of get out of this situation, but we always need to be thinking about what the next move is. In the early days, it's nice to like not be too focused on that. But when it gets to a point where, there's a level of consistency, you're doing X amount of clients per week and you have been for years, now it's time to start looking at like, okay, well, what am I actually doing with this extra money that I'm collecting, rather than just having it to buy the latest shoes or the latest clothes or whatever it is that people are doing with the money. Because I feel like that's where a lot of modern day hype barbering has gone into the materialism. And I got caught up in that for a while. But there was no strategy or plan around how to actually use my money well, the money that I did have at the time. So I think, it needs a little bit of further thought than just next week, next month, next year. Like, we need to look at, what does the exit look like? What does life after barbering look like? I look at barbering like, and people might slate me for this, and I got something to say actually as well about cutthroat shaving after this. Just a really random thing that I wrote down yesterday. But people might slate me for this, but I look at barbering like a sports career. The way the people are treating it right now, they're not treating it like a career. Like a career meaning that it's going to last forever, because if something's going to last forever, you'd treat it a little bit more progressively and steadily and set foundations in place for it to last. Foundations such as looking after my health, making sure that I'm strong, making sure I have enough of a war chest or money built up to, like, you know, for lack of a better word, save for the rainy day. But it doesn't seem to be that right now. Now it just seems to be like a burn and churn generation, meaning that let me just race to the moon, make as much money as I possibly can, and then what? What's the plan then? You know, we just did our free trading, make more in 24, and we spoke to multiple income streams, and there's barbers that they just don't know what the multiple income streams are. So if you don't know what they are, then why are you stacking as much cash as you are and not giving yourself any time to think about what the income streams might be?
We know that most people get more money to spend more money. That's just a fact. You know, there's that stat out there, the average American spends 17% more than they make, which I'm assuming is all on credit. So I really like that you bring that point up. I've thought about that a lot in the past and never really been able to, like, articulate it very well. Probably more so out of, like, audacity, feeling like it's going to come across a bit audacious. But I'd go a step further, even with the word, and like you said, you know, treating it like a career. I'd even say, like, treating the whole thing even with a bit more respect. Like, see, there's a weird mindset right now of, like, if I can do the Edgar haircut and I can put some design in someone's hair and I can do the buzzword blowout taper and I can charge $250 for it, I think for a lot of people, they just think that's the goal. That's it. That's literally it. But guys, I can tell you it's not it. It will change again, because that blowout taper, the Edgar, the lines, that will change too. I mean, we've seen all of that in our career. We were there when all the lines and the scratches first came out. And it will change. And what then? And what happens when that price point needs to change? You gotta know your strategy. You gotta know your strategy. And I think what kind of came to mind then when you brought that up was, like, yeah, it is very different now. It's a very different industry. I think when I started, there was more of a respect for the craft in terms of, like, learning to be good at more things. I'm not saying everything, because I don't believe you need to be good at everything, but it's just having a broader scope of skill set. Now, that's if you want it to be a long-term career. Now, this is where the big question comes in. I think every barber who gets into the industry, like, from this point onwards, needs to ask themselves, have a good chat with themselves. What do I want this to be? Is this like you said, a burn and churn thing? Are we just going in and we're just getting some quick cash for 5 years and we're out? Or do I want longevity in this industry? If you want longevity, I think it pays to pay a bit more respect to the craft. Whereas if it is just a get in and get out thing, then I can see the mentality, you know, get hypey, turn on the market and tap, get your cash and get out. Now, there's pros and cons to both of those things. But either way, you got to know how to get clients. Either way, you have to know how to get clients for two reasons. For the guy that just wants to get in and out, well, you've got to play a volume game. You know, if you can charge a high price at volume, you're going to be killing it. And secondly, for the guy that wants longevity, which I got to this point in my career, you're going to want to recycle some of them clients after a while, because it does get a bit boring. After time, as you mature and your taste level changes and there's new things that you might want to try. It's getting those clients in the chair and marketing to those people and being able to do the kind of work that you want to do, just to keep your own self inspired. Because for a lot of people, and this is what I don't see a lot, we've done God knows how many courses now. We've taught hundreds, if not thousands of people by now. And I don't see many people that have done a lot of time in a lot of different areas of hair. There's the guys that do like loads of fades, or there's a guy that just do like whatever they do. But it'll get to a point in your career where you've kind of touched on all the different disciplines, and then you got to find a way to keep yourself inspired then to want to do it on a daily basis. Because like sub 5 years, everything's exciting and new. Everything's like, oh cool, this one I'm going to try and get this one. Oh cool. Whereas like once you get into the 10, 15, even 20 year point, I feel like you spent most people have spent more time in more disciplines. So it's important to have a strategy around getting new clients if you want them, to keep yourself inspired. And that's what I realized I had to do. And then because getting booked up with the same clients for 5 to 10 years is absolutely fine, that can be very comfortable and a really solid, really clear way to make money. But if you're getting bored and you want more inspiration, I think there needs to be a bit of a strategy around getting more clients as well.
Yeah. Now, I think it's important also to touch on the whole getting more clients means that there currently isn't enough. Now, for the person that's listening to this who is already fully booked or at full capacity with a clientele already and doesn't have any space for new clients or more clients, that's also something to look at, because if there is no space, then you got to look at the space that's currently filled and like, is it filled with people that, number one, can keep sustaining your growth? Because eventually, to move to the next stage of life, you're probably going to want some more money. And there's a lot of limiting beliefs that need to be broken down around what this whole thing even is, because it's such a personal industry, people get way too personally attached to their clients. And I understand, because, I've been there, but at a certain point, things change. A lot of things in life change. Things move on. People move on. Your clients will move on before you move your clients on. So it's important to always think about what is best for the overall growth of yourself, your family, your future, and how do your clients then fit into that. But speaking of strategy, for me, if I go back to, I think it's worth going back all the way to the start and speaking to like the subconscious factors that I used to get clients. And I wasn't taught this as a strategy, but it just came innately to me. And it's the social strategy. It's going on social media and finding your clients there. And it's not necessarily finding your clients, but it's letting your clients find you by being there. If you're not there, how are they going to find you? So you got to tell people about your stuff. Like, if you're not telling people about your stuff, then how are they going to know that you do the stuff? Like, it's just impossible. They're not going to figure it out by themselves. If you got a full clientele right now and you're sick to death of them and you're bored to tears of cutting their hair, well, go on social media and start switching up the strategy a little bit. I know a lot of barbers who are fully booked all of the time, busy, but their clients still can't commit to them and still don't respect their time. And at a certain point, that kind of needs to change. We spoke about this before, we'll speak about it again, but we're working on this thing at the moment as a concept called like the Barber growth formula. And what we're looking at is like, there's a couple of different phases in the growth of somebody within this industry. And in phase one, we're taught basically to take anybody we possibly can, cut their hair, allows them to be flexible, because we need them at that point, because we're learning, so we need them, so we need to be flexible, and we need to move around with their schedules, and we cut their hair for very cheap prices or free a lot of the time in order to get the reps in. But at a certain point, that can't continue. And I see a lot of people 10, 20, 30 years into their career still stuck in phase one, mindset wise, and they might have clients and they might have certain situations that are in phase two and phase three, but their mindset's still back in phase one with some clients, and that in itself is super tiring, just because there's a lack of communication or an ability to communicate like needs, essentially. So if we're to look at the social strategy, it's pretty simple. You just go on social media and you tell people about what you do. Kind of that simple. If you don't tell people about what you do, then they don't know about what you do.
I have this motto for 2024. It's just never not marketing. So I feel like for everybody in 2024, especially in the barbering world, I think that the dial's being turned up now on marketing in a way that we haven't really seen it before. Is never not marketing. We need to be always telling people about what we have and why we think they need it, so they go and spend their dollars with you at your business. It's huge, and I love that trajectory, and this is something I'd love to see more of in apprenticeships and training, is explaining to young hair professionals that they're well, I don't know if anybody has these strategies. I mean, we understand this stuff, but like a strategy for growth, like you said, the growth formula and how to manage your clientele. I think that's something that is not taught. I haven't seen it. People like clientele management. It's not really taught much. And yes, early days, there is a time, and I went through it, of just taking anybody through the door just to get the reps in, get the trench hours in. And that's like your dating period. It's like just getting used, like get the feel of like, what do you like? Who do you like? Do you like cutting those types of hair? And sometimes there might be an annoying person in the chair, but it's a hair type they haven't cut before. So in your early years, it's like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to cut this one just because like I haven't done this hair type before, and purely for the fact that it's for the training purposes. I really think we need to take a Rick Rubin approach on it and get a bit more bloody selfish, like, and do it for us a bit more, But I don't think barbers are really doing hair for themselves anymore. Some of them are flexing for themselves, but the hair, they're just trying to please people, again, to please themselves for a pattern. But regardless, because that's why most people would take on anyone out of a people-pleasing activity rather than falling in love with the craft and really thinking of their own development. Now, I would even do that now as well. If there was something that I really wanted to do with hair and the person was annoying, I would just do it anyway. Not because I want to do it for them, but it's for me. And I think with the development that I have in my mind now, at this age of 33, I could manage the situation really, really well. I could stay regulated and be like, well, I don't really care what happens here. I don't care if they like it or not. This is purely a selfish act. I'm going to do it for me. But that's not most people's mindset. And so early years, yes, I think there's room to take on as much as you can and cut as many people's hair as you can. Like I say, that's your dating period with the hair industry. That's like, who do I like cutting? What kind of people do I like? Because you're going to get inundated with all different types of people, and it's like it's being on like a personal development rocket ship. You're going to get triggered by a lot of people. You're going to get confused by a lot of people. You're going to enjoy a lot of people. It's just going to be, it's very random at the start. What types of hair do you like doing? What are you good at? What are you not so good at? That's great stuff to do. But once you get to that, you climb that little hump, then you can flatten out a bit and stay there. But then there's stage 2, like you said, what do we do then? And we start to mold and move the clientele around, and then we start to sift out the ones that we don't like. Okay, maybe I'll drop them, and maybe that's a price rise, or maybe that's I start to specialize, or whatever that may be. But I'd love to see that taught more, is a strategy for growth throughout your whole career. And that comes back to something that we've been talking about for years. We used to teach this on our 3-day course like years ago. Like, clientele curation is possible. Now, I think a lot of barbers struggle with this, again, sub 5-year point. They're still in that like accumulation phase of just trying to cut as many people as possible. So they don't really understand the concept. It's like, well, how can I be picky about who I cut? How can I choose? I'm going to lose out. And then there'll still be the little people pleaser up here on the back of their heads, like, oh, but you're not going to please as many people. But trust me, at the 10-year point and the 15-year point, you're going to be like, I'm sick of pleasing these people. I want to start doing some stuff for me. I want to get inspired again. So it's important to have that strategy and have a bit of a sifting process and a process around working out what you actually want to do, and then curate your clientele and your career around that, for sure. So I really like that step strategy. But it's just not taught. Like, if you ask the average barber, so what's the plan with your like clientele management and strategy over the next 5 years? They wouldn't have a clue. Like, oh, I don't know. Cut, I guess, whoever comes in the door. It's like, yeah, I understand that too. Like, we've all got bills to pay, and there's a certain level of like, yeah, I gotta make some money, obviously. But when you get good at that, and when your books are getting full, that is no longer your issue. That's no longer your issue. Once you can start see 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks getting pretty much like 50 to 80% booked out ahead, that baseline revenue isn't your issue anymore. Then it's like we're getting to curation phase where we start to build a dream life. And I think if a lot of people were taught this strategy, I think we'd see a lot more people stay in the industry longer. I really do. Because they'd be doing it for more empowering reasons. They'd empower themselves. And this is where it goes a bit sideways. It's like, we don't really empower ourselves with our models that we teach. You know, imagine you've got a strategy around curation of clientele. You've got a strategy for consistent price rises. Because this is the other thing. These guys are going astronomical right now, 250, 300. That's cool. But what are you going to do when you need to put it up again? So I'd love to see a strategy for more consistent price rises, and just growth overall, for more empowerment.
Yeah, I believe fundamentally that it's more important to be better at marketing than it is to be good at cutting hair. And that's kind of like, you know, there's an equation that I put out yesterday online, and it was like, you know, have a skill, something that you do, which is in our case cutting hair, tell people about it, and then fulfill that, actually do the thing and carry it out. But a lot of the time the focus just goes to having the skill and carrying it out and forgetting the most important ingredient in the meal. It's like having a burger with no meat in the middle. You know, you just have the buns and you're just biting into the buns. Like, the most important thing that you could be working on and getting better at is marketing. Always. Doesn't matter if you continue with the skill or not, because if you're good at marketing, you can market anything. You know, you market yourself.
And that's why I love what we do. I mean, we're experiencing that as we speak, right? Like, our marketing strategy, we've got to be on the ball all the time. And there's a quote that one of our coaches shared, and it's like, you know, marketing is a constant experiment. Like, it's always going to change. And that's why it's like we always need to be marketing, because the strategy that worked last year might not work this year. And we need to keep doing that. And that's why I love that never not marketing, because it's constant practice. It's a constant experiment. And we need to, in such a saturated market, we need to be constantly telling people about the things we do to get the new clients, or to curate the clients that we want to see. Now, you know, for anyone who hears this equation, I still think it pays to try and get good at the thing. Like, yes, I think right now, because I think marketing, again, we've spoken about this a lot before, and the psychology and of things and human behavior and marketing is very like time specific as well. Like what's happening like right now. And right now, again, I think social media reveals behavior in culture. I don't think behavior in culture shapes social media, or social media doesn't create the behavior. It reveals the behavior. And what we're seeing right now is that clients clearly don't know what a good haircut is in terms of like professional terms. What professionals think is good and what clients think is good is two totally different things. And it's showing that you don't have to be that technically good at cutting hair to have a massive following and make good money. Now that's just right now. That might change. Who knows? In another year's time, people might have caught on and be like, oh, this is actually a lot of just like bullshit artists going on. I want to see really good products again. So I think it's really important to add that on, is like, yeah, marketing is a constant experiment. And right now, I totally agree. I think in 2024, it's more important that you put a heavy emphasis on your marketing.
Okay.
Sure. But don't forget to get good at the thing in the meantime.
Yeah, because it's all, I think a big part of this conversation to take away is getting more clients is awesome, but it's not about the clients that you get, it's about the quality of clients that you get. You know, the quantity is one thing, but the quality is another. And the quantity is okay for today, tomorrow, next week, but the quality is what's going to last longer term. And with some of the strategies that I'm observing, I don't cut hair, so it's a much easier place to observe it from now. So when I observe the strategies are attracting clients that I personally wouldn't want to have as a client, just because of how I would like my clientele to be curated and what types of people I would like to cut and what types of conversations I would like to have. And that's a really important place to kind of stop and think about it first, because gone are the days where we are relying on just anybody walking through the door. Yet what we kind of spoke to a little bit in the last podcast was about old school versus new school ways of thinking. This is another way of thinking about this. We don't need to rely on that anymore. But if the mindset is still there, phase one or stage one in the Barber growth formula, you know, I would even say that this is prehistoric. It's like BS, you know, instead of BC. It's like before the formula is like waiting for people to just walk through the door, because all you had then was your only medium of communication to get clients to the door was your shop location on the street. And people would walk past, see it, word of mouth would spread, and people would come in. Now, what that makes people is a commodity, because you're available anytime. People can walk in, buy your stuff, and there's no scarcity created around it. Now, when there's no scarcity, it means there's less value. Things that are scarce, by their very nature, are more valuable. Look at diamonds, look at gold, look at money. People think money is scarce, but it's not really, because they print it. But it's treated that way. So things that are scarce by their very nature are more valuable. Now, the friction point here is that, and it might seem counterintuitive, but the less clients that you do get, the more scarce you become, meaning the more leverage you have to control what actually happens with the service, with what you charge, with all of these different things. So it takes a shift in how we think about it. At a certain point, we need to get our reps in, we need to get the training in, we need to, like you said, be more of a generalist, you know, get a feel for everything so that we're actually growing the skill. But at a certain point, the generalist has to turn into more of a specialist if we want to continue the growth on that formula, because without us doing that, we're just going to remain a generalist forever with a specialist skill set and wonder why we're upset about it.
Yeah. I love the analogy to the diamonds that you brought in. Just something I want to touch on there is like, it's such a good way to look at barbering and what's actually happening in barbering and some of the struggles that we have. It's like, diamonds are some of the most expensive gems you can buy, right? It's one of the most expensive thing you can buy in the jewelry world. And the reason is scarcity. Like, why else? It's just a nice looking thing. Yes, it's one of the hardest materials you can get, but who cares? Like, why does that make it expensive? Now, the funny thing is, when you dig a bit deeper, there isn't a supply issue with diamonds. The scarcity is fake scarcity. Or there's so many, I don't know the number, but there are loads of diamonds in storage. So all these big companies store diamonds and they only release a certain amount every year. And what that does is it keeps the scarcity issue and it keeps the price point high on the diamond. Now, if we look at the hair industry, we don't do that with hair. Imagine if it was really hard to get a haircut. Now this is the thing. There are thousands of barbers. It's so easy to get a haircut. It's so easy. Like 99.9% of all the people that I know get a haircut and they can literally get one today, easy, for probably $50 if they really tried and looked hard enough. Easy. So there is very little scarcity created in our industry. Now that's okay. People think, well, why should it be hard to get? No, okay. Yep, you can get whatever you want, but we've got to realize what happens on the back end of it is that we shoot our own selves in the foot because we give away all of the control to everybody else and we turn ourselves into a commodity, exactly like you just said. So we can learn something there from the diamond trade. And imagine if there were only, I think about these scenarios all the time. We've got, say there's, 5,000 barbers in Australia. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I don't know. Imagine if there was only 100 left. Imagine if like 4,900 of them just left the industry and there was 100 left. They would make a killing. I'd be charging $2,000 a haircut, guaranteed. Because you just couldn't, it would be like so scarce and such a prized thing, it's so hard to get that the value would go up. So that's something else that's not taught in the barbering world either, because then once you become a specialist, you then can become a bit more scarce. And then people really want that thing, they'll pay more for it.
Yeah, and it takes the barbers who would be left to have the mindset of business and actually to have a bit of a business orientated mindset, because so many ways that I could go here. My mind is just full of different things, but a few pennies dropped there, and one of the pennies in particular that I haven't really thought about before is, we speak a lot to consumer conditioning, and we speak with our clients a lot about consumer conditioning. And the old model of like just taking anybody at any time, what does that actually, we might look this, then I want to just frame this properly. I need to take a second. We need to be careful as to how we train our clients to see us. Because we might think taking an extra client on at the end of the day is doing them a favor, but we're actually shooting ourselves in the foot longer term. Instant gratification versus delayed. We think, oh great, I'll do this guy a favor. This is doing really good for him. It's doing really good for me because I get an extra however much you charge for a haircut. But what that is subconsciously telling the client is that we are desperate for haircuts and we're desperate for money. Now, that is accumulated and compounded over, I don't know how many years at this point, to the point where the general population have an understanding that barbers are just desperate for money and that they're doing us a favour by coming in to get their haircut from us, because that's generally how barbers are treated. From all of the barbers I've spoken to, it seems the same. Like, the clients seem to know more about this industry than they know about everything else. They seem to know more about how to cut their own hair than some of the barbers do, because of how we've been conditioned generally. And we need to keep that in mind when we're thinking about getting new clients and taking new clients. And when a new client comes along and you're a couple of years into your barbering career, how you onboard them to becoming a client of yours is super important, because if you onboard them just like you've onboarded everybody else, just because it's easy, that's a lazy approach, and it's going to get you poor results, because you need to set new precedents. Every time a new client comes along, you have an opportunity to set new boundaries. Another word for new precedents is new boundaries, and being like, no, this is how it works, this isn't how it works. Had an interesting situation pop up the other day. I haven't told you about this yet, but I got a message and I was like, I'm going to turn this into a piece of content, but here we are, we can speak about it here. But it gave me a good insight into like just the way people think about hair and barbering. Somebody messaged me asking, hey, I'm looking for a stylist to come and do a touch-up for an Indian celebrity in Sydney. It's like, are you available? Don't know how they thought I was in Sydney. So I contacted one of our clients and asked him if he could do it. And I kind of negotiated the terms for him. So usually his out of hours price point is $200. This was a Sunday, by the way, on 2 hours notice. And I said, look, his out of hours is $200. But because it's a Sunday and he's traveling to you, it's going to be minimum $300, but I'm going to have to ask him first. Like, I haven't even asked him at this point. I'm not even going to send him a message unless it's like $300. So she says, okay, great. And then I message him and we have a conversation about it. And she comes back saying it's expensive and like, is there any way you can do it cheaper and this and that? It's like, I just started to compare it across other industries. If that was a chef, if that was a hairdresser, if that was a makeup artist, $300 would have been considered okay, I would believe. But because it's a barber and because it's a touch-up, that's somehow seen as too expensive. Now, whose fault is that? Barbers, for leaving their books wide open and being barber vending machines and cutting people's hair at any time, anywhere, any place for the same price or cheaper because you're my friend. What is that showing? Desperation. And like, desperation isn't a good strategy, and it's not one that I recommend. And I recommend holding a boundary, and I recommend pushing people to next week, and I recommend conditioning your clients when you get new clients, because getting new clients is great, but how you condition them is everything. And that doesn't have to be seen as like this thing where we're manipulating people to meet our needs. It's not that. It's just holding a good, decent human boundary. So anyway, it was funny when she messaged me back. She started messaging him then herself, trying to like get him for a cheaper price, and he held his boundary, which I was very proud of, because that's what we would have told him to do. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to do it if it's for less than 300. Plus, we found out who the celebrity was, and like, you know, celebrity is a bit of a strange word to use. It's not like it was Tom Cruise or somebody, you know, like it wasn't as if he was going to get a lot out of it in terms of exposure, you know, plus like what kind of exposure then, and where is that going to lead to him acquiring new clients and actually making money in his business. And I honestly believe barbering is one of the industries that by the general population doesn't get seen as a career or a business. It gets seen as a favor. Clients actually see it as a favor. It's like, we're doing you a favor. I remember like during, like towards the end of COVID and stuff, you know, I was cutting a couple of people from their house and going to people's houses, and I remember them like asking me, oh, can you keep coming back here? Like, we'll give you, I think it was like, we'll give you $50 a haircut, and you come here and you cut like a couple of different people's, and we'd prefer to be giving it to you than giving it to the barbershop. And it's like, you think you're the one doing me a favor here? Like, here I am at your house cutting your hair. Like, what do you think this is? Like, I'm not so, like, I don't know, it just feels like beggarish, you know, like it's got that kind of vibes to it. But it's up to us at a certain point in time to draw the line. And like, that's why we do the work that we do, because we fundamentally need to change the mindset around what this all is. So getting new clients is great, but getting new clients and treating them the way you've treated all of your clients up to the point of now, if you're not happy with how some of it is going, then things need to change.
I always look at our industry as well, and I've thought about this for years. I'm like, why, and I've said it on other podcasts as well, like, why is it easier to get a haircut than it is to get high-end medical services? Like, why is it easier to go and change the color of your hair than it is to go and get really good medical advice? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I always think about this. Why is it so easy to get a haircut? Like, I don't think too many people can answer that question. I really don't. I'd love to put that out on a poll, actually. I might do that on my social media. Why, as a collective, why do we think it's so easy to get a haircut? And why do you, if you do think it should be, why do you think it should be? And that's quite an interesting one. Imagine if it was quite hard to get a haircut. Now, that would be different, because I don't think it would ever go away. Like I said, 99.9% of all people that I know get their haircut. So people still want it. The demand is there, but the supply is just falling flat on its back. Like, that's why, like, people who get, you know, you think of like people who work in cafes and all these people that are baristas and all in all those industries, they get walked all over. Like, waiters get walked all over. Like, these baristas get walked all over, like treated like crap. So that's probably similar. Like, baristas and barbers is probably similar. It's so easy to get, and it's at such a cheap price point, like, that people just walk all over it. Now, why is exquisite coffee so easy to get? You know, there's a craft there. Why is a really good haircut so easy to get? Like, you know, if we want people to respect us, we got to respect ourselves a bit more. And place it somewhere in the world. And back to your point about like doing a favor. Oh, I'm doing you a favor. Well, that's it. That's every business then. You could put every business in that point. And, you know, that whole, this is where the holes start to come through. It's like, if we don't, you know, that whole statement of like, you get paid in kind of the equivalent to the problem that you solve. It's like, maybe there's a reason hair is hard to charge for, because it's not solving that big of a problem. But the psychology is, us as barbers need to realize, well, if everybody wants it, we can challenge that equation and go, we all want it, so it seems like it's a big problem. So this is my price then. If you want it that bad and it's such a problem to you that you don't look the way you want to appease the opinion of others or try and fix the broken child inside, okay, then it's going to have to be a higher price point. So that's a really interesting question. Why is it so easy to get, and why should it be so easy to get? Because I think to this, right, like you said, like a chef, right? If I wanted a Michelin star chef to come and cook some food for me, I wouldn't know where to start. Where on earth do you find a Michelin star chef to come and cook food for you at my house because I've got something that I want and I want you to do it because I heard that you're the best? Where do you start to get that? And I'm sure it's going to be bloody expensive.
Social conditioning. It's social conditioning. I think, it's because what we think the thing is. There's a lot of other things that aren't necessary that cost a lot of money as well. Like I'm thinking about like art and people who paint, like they're actually representing personal brand very well because there's a lot of art and there's a lot of painting out there. But why do some cost millions and some cost nothing? Same thing with food. Why does some food cost thousands and some costs nothing? And it comes back to like what we've made things mean. And up to now, very few people have made hair, particularly men's hair, expensive and feel expensive. And I feel like that's where the overall get affected, because most barbers are in the race to the bottom. And they're worried about the volume game. They're like thinking, as long as I just keep doing the haircuts, then I'll make the money. But that's actually participating in the race to the bottom, going the opposite way to what they probably internally feel calls to, which is the race to the top. And coffee is the same, right? Like if you notice it, right, like there's similar behaviors across the board, like you were saying, between barbers and baristas. People complain about the price of a coffee because of how easy it is to get one. People complain about the price of a haircut because of how easy it is to get one. But they don't complain about the price of other things. So for example, it's like, we'll go to a coffee shop, say if somebody charges us $8 for a coffee, we might look at each other and be like, fucking $8 for the coffee, because of how easy it is to get it somewhere else for the same price or less and same quality. No. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we're just in a new world and a new way of thinking, and I feel like the people who adapt to the new way of thinking earliest will reap the most reward when it comes to it's not just about how much extra money you make, and that, like, we're not going down that route. It doesn't mean I have to charge $100 plus per haircut and make all this extra money. It's also about the quality of your experience on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis.
That's what it comes back to, doesn't it? Like to your point about what we're making hair mean. Like, we haven't given it a great meaning over time, and why is all this important? Well, it comes back to your quality of life. Like, it really does. I'd prefer to get to the end of my life and be like, damn, yeah, that was a life well lived. I enjoyed that. Instead of getting to the end of my life and thinking, damn, I had a long career, hung in there, but fuck, I hated 80% of the people that I was cutting. Oh, I hated most of that. It just doesn't seem like a life well lived. Just because I was too afraid to do it any different, or just followed the crowd. So yeah, it's so important to think about the meaning that we give these things. And I love where you went there with art. It's like, so many people will call haircutting art. It's like, I just don't think it is right now. Like, the way that we do it right now, there's not much artistic about it, really. Like, you think of all the education out there, we've essentially broken hair down to a complete simplistic formula. Like, I could teach you how to do any haircut to a formula. So that's not art. That's just copy the formula and you'll get the result. And the meaning that we give it is to make ourselves feel a little better on the inside, which is us trying to control our external world to hopefully change our internal world, which doesn't work. This just not, it's not a great meaning. It's not an empowering meaning. And it isn't a celebration of the art. It's not a celebration of the craft. It does a disrespect to the person that's actually doing the thing, and it compounds the disempowerment on the client side of things. So we can see where we're stuck in so many places. We're so stuck in so many places. And that's why it's so important to think about these things. And now the longer that goes, the more we're just going to bring in, if we do get new clients, those are the types of clients we're going to bring in if we don't start to challenge the way that we do things and market ourselves in a different way. And we've experienced this firsthand. I mean, I'll speak for myself, working in some of the studios that we've worked in, award-winning studios, that attracts some of the worst kinds. Like, well, not the worst, but like people that are the most difficult, because they will walk in the door and expect you. I think what they think is that they see a high price point and they see all the awards on the shelf, and they see the brand, and they just get this assumption that you are there to fix them. It's such a high price point that you are there to fix them. And they come in and they want, this for my hair, I don't like this. Because all I see is a hurt little child inside screaming out for someone to love them. That's all it is. And they're trying to do that by way of changing their external reality. And I think that's the meaning we've given it. And it's just it's a sad meaning. There's no celebration in that. There's no, there's not a lot of respect in that. There's not a lot of boundary in that. To me, and it's just not really net positive, because all we're compounding is that it's the right thing to do is to change your external world to hopefully change your internal world, which rarely works. So that's why it's so important to be careful of the types of clients that you're getting in and how you're marketing. Once you get out of that initial foundational phase of your client building process, it's really important about how you market and how you curate. If you want any kind of enjoyment or, quality of life.
Client is always right.
Are they though?
No,
that's the thing.
And I don't know. I was just, I don't know why that came up, but I was just joking. But the number one most important client that you can ever look after is yourself in the working environment. Now, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't give other people quality energy, because at the end of the day, they are coming to you for a service and a product, and there's no doubt that should be carried out to a high level. If you're going to do it, why not do it well? However, if you want to have enjoyment and you want to bring moments of joy to what you do, as the person carrying out the service and providing the product, you need to remain in control. And that takes a level of conviction. So as you were talking about that there, with the award-winning studio and the people coming in, every time a new client would come in, it was ultimate conviction. It was like, I just need to own where I'm at and act accordingly and control the situation, and basically be the leader in the situation. We're leading our clients in that situation. Now, the only time that I ever came into trouble with that, or had conflict, or it didn't work that way, where the client expected me to do certain things, is when they had been conditioned by somebody else in the same place to behave in a certain way, to know what was okay and what wasn't, because they had come to that same place and been treated in a certain way. Now, for the people who have inherited our clientele, they have a dream life right now because of how we conditioned them. They were conditioned, and we've had this feedback from the people who now cut our clients, saying, your clients are the easiest to cut. They just come in and they just trust in what I do, because I've conditioned them to think like that. I haven't conditioned them to be fussy and to be picking out millimeters and all this and this and this line and this beard line, and it's like, no. That doesn't bring me any happiness whatsoever. Like, it's actually slave mentality to me, and most barbers will put themselves in their own handcuffs and they'll become their own slaves. because of the ability to the inability to just hold up a boundary and say, you don't even have to say no. It's just like how you're energetically behaving. It's the conviction in how you show up and how you deal with the consultation. How much conviction you have and belief that you have in your own skill set in order to be able to carry out the thing. This is one thing I'll never understand. Is like, and this is, we help people with this a lot. But if you're going to do the thing and you want to keep doing the thing, would you not just get really good at doing the thing so that you're never in a situation where you feel stressed? Because the only time that you'll take the back foot is if you don't believe in your own skill set. And that's when the client will start leading you, and they'll put the dog leash on you and they'll basically tell you how to do their hair. Even though you're the trained professional, that to me doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, if that was happening to me and it was happening to me regularly, I would have to stop myself and say, all right, Owen, you need to go and have a look and see what needs to be fixed here. Like, what do I need to do in order to kind of get across this line? Like, do I need to go and actually get better at cutting hair so that this doesn't happen? Yeah, I do. Okay, I'll go and get better at cutting hair.
And then do I need to get better at the authority building and the consultation? And that's why the $1 million consultation was developed, because I saw that even through my own experiences and just through what everybody was telling me. There's something that I love that I shared with our coaching group just this week past, actually, and I used you as an example on the call, was, assume authority, don't let them search for authority. It's not a level playing field, because I guarantee, we've all heard it in the hair world, oh, you're the professional, you do the thing. Okay, I've heard that enough times now. I need to assume that I'm the professional and I assume the authority. It's like any great marketing, it's like any great sales conversation. You need to take control and you need to assume the authority. Don't let them search for it, because the moment they search for it, if they can't find anyone else to pin it on, they're going to give it to themselves. And they were like, well, I'm actually in control here. And that's it. It's literally game over from that point. So that's a great tip for consultation, is just assume the authority. Going into those scenarios, don't let them search for it. And then back that up, like you said, with a killer skill set. Like, I never get nervous going into a haircut now. I think that's from years of doing haircuts. It's also doing probably hundreds of thousands of haircuts at this point in all different disciplines. Just get good at the thing. Trust in your products, and that is hard early days because you're still learning, but just realize the season that you're in, that there's something to having humility as well, to realize in the season that you're in. It's all right if you don't know. It's fine. It's okay. All it does is a little bit of feedback. It doesn't do anything to your self-worth. It just shows you that there's more to learn. And that's the cool thing about life. And then we go and seek the help.
Yeah, it's not a pleasurable way to live, to just be taking orders from people though. And the only time I would ever get nervous or lose the conviction was when I was trying to meet somebody's expectations, and when they would give me orders, and I was trying to meet their expectations. Because what happens, exactly, and what happens in that situation is somebody comes in and they're overly convicted in what they think this should be. So quite often when a stylist doesn't have the conviction themselves to hold it in that moment and be like, no, this isn't how it works, they just go along with it, and then it turns into, how can I make you happy? And then the stress levels come in, cortisol goes up, they lose 50 to 60% of their IQ, and they end up giving the person a worse product. It actually becomes about the stylist trying to prove themselves to the nightmare client rather than anything else. And that, as a psychology model, is actually quite laughable, if you were to zoom out on it and look at it from somewhere else. But it's just, human behavior 101, and you know, I think for me, when I go back to those situations, the only time, and this is the irony of it, is like we're trying to please people then that we don't even want to keep as clients, and we don't want to see them again, yet we're trying to please them to get them out the door. Now look, don't get me wrong, we strive for and aim to give them the best possible product regardless of whether we have a good personal relationship or not. But as a longer term strategy, something like that can just mess up your day. Like your whole day can be destroyed, your whole week could be destroyed if you see that person booked in again. And quite often they will book in again because of how they were able to control you and manipulate you and make you feel, and it might be nothing to do with the haircut, it actually could be something to do with psychology and how they felt like the alpha in a certain moment. And narcissists, it's actually dealing with narcissist clients. That's what it is. They're basically narcissists to a degree, or really hurt, like you were saying.
And unfortunately, I think it's both a lot of the time because of the nature of the industry that we're in. We're in the image industry, so that plays directly into narcissism. And that plays directly into the authority piece. You know, some people want to find a place where they can hold authority. So the moment they find that, they could be like, yep, I'm going to go back there, whether you like them or not. And it's having a process around that. Like, you know, what do you do when you don't like a client or you don't want to do that kind of work? Well, it comes back to marketing again. So yeah, really important. And I've spoken about it in a podcast before, but like that whole task-based haircutting, I think that's what a lot of people do. Is they just turn it into a task of, can I do the thing that the person wants purely out of pleasing them, which becomes a people-pleasing exercise. And yet you just desert yourself. You lose yourself in the pursuit of pleasing someone else. And it's a sad life to live. And, you know, because I've done it. The reason I speak about it is because I've done it. And it's not enjoyable. Like I said, I want to get to the end of my life and think, yep, that was a life well lived. Not, damn, I let everybody just walk all over me. And the thing is, I feel like another great thing in training for barbers would be just to do like non-violent communication courses, like get people to understand that not everything is a stab or an argument or a poke at you. I can't remember the quote that I used, but you know, it's that whole thing around like people who don't understand psychology to just think everything is an argument. It's not. We can have a conversation around boundaries and standards. And that would be amazing, because most people are just too afraid to have the conversation with people because people get offended way too quickly. I don't know if you've watched, this is brilliant. I don't know if you've seen Ricky Gervais's new stand-up. Have you seen his new Armageddon stand-up?
Yeah, I have.
And that part where he's like, you know, and there was man, he went for 10,000 years. He said, oh yeah, just switched over. So in the stand-up, he says, you know, you think of man, where he's gone and where God created man. And they said, that's how you're going to create him. Oh, well, he's going to have strength, and, you know, he's going to be able to build houses and hunt his food. And, you know, he's going to be able to reproduce and create empires and do this and do this. And eventually he's going to be afraid of words. And I thought, it's just brilliant. We've got all these powers, and then we're going to create worlds, and we're going to do great things, and strength and perseverance, and then we're going to get to a point where we're insulted by words. That's it. That's why a lot of people can't have. We're in a time now where we're so afraid of words, and a little bit of training around that goes a long way, because we could just do some nonviolent communication training, or even we could just go and see a psychologist and we can learn how to navigate these conversations in a compassionate way.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, there's multiple skills that we're not taught, but they're caught in just being in the industry, you know. And to go all the way back to the start of the conversation, marketing is one of them. You know, telling people about our stuff, not being afraid to tell people about our stuff. You know, the beauty of telling people about our stuff is that when we tell them, then they know what to come and expect. So it actually avoids all of the stuff that we just spoke about now anyway. So it does all of the heavy lifting for you. We always say it. Your brand and your marketing is the best consultation you could ever have. It got to a point in my career where I didn't even get questioned. You know, people would come and they just take the haircut they're given, to the point that now, even now, up to now, if somebody starts giving me directions about their hair, I don't want to cut their hair at all. Like, you know, even this, like, yeah, we can have a conversation around like what's going on, but if they start getting anywhere near the kind of fussy line, I'm like, I don't really have to be doing this. You know, this is me actually doing you a favor now at this point. So like, but they don't ever go there because of the conviction and the energy that that comes with it. And that's the beautiful thing about now being in the education space, because people assume authority with the education space. Even clients, they see that as an authoritative piece.
I think even before that, like just getting good at the thing, getting as good as you possibly can is a great method for that as well, because, you know, and not for validation either. Like it does you favors. You get really good at the things so you can produce really consistent work. And then to get to our point, right? We've won all the awards, we've done all the things, right? We've been in teams, we've done education, we've done all sorts of stuff because we got really good at the thing. And when a client starts to go down those routes, I never get people going into the details anymore, because I'm like, this person, it's framed in such a way where they clearly don't know anywhere near as much about hair as I do. And back to the food industry, there was a show on telly called Dessert Masters, and there's a guy on there who's this freak dessert guy, like freak. And he's got this amazing restaurant in Sydney. And I went to the restaurant to try out one of these desserts. And on the menu, it said, and by the way, they're ridiculous, like so high quality. There's ingredients I've never heard of. There's the sugar's cooked in a certain way, the cream's done in a certain way. Like it's beautiful, right? It's an absolute work of art. And on the menu, it says, if you have allergies or sensitivities, we apologize, but we cannot cater for you. We will not change the ingredients. Why? Because he knows what it takes to get a really good high-end product. It's the same with hair cutting. I don't let people change the ingredients of my haircuts. Why? Because I know what it takes to make a really good haircut. The moment I let an untrained professional start to tell me how to create a high-end product, it's no longer a high-end product. It's just not. It's diminished in value because it's not how I know how to do it. And then people will debate that to the day they die then. But it's my haircut and I'm paying you the money and blah, blah. Yeah, and that's all conditioning and that's all an opinion. Like, that guy does it in the chef world. He doesn't change his ingredients for people. Like, no, this is how it's done. And this is why I am so good. I am good at what I do.
And the key ingredient in all of that is actually being good at what it is that we do. And that in itself is worth paying for, you know?
Because that's the other thing that's being missed as well. It's like people still pay for good quality products. I think above all, you know, marketing aside, like above all, and this is where I'm so interested to see where this whole thing goes with, you know, all this hype barbering, but above all, I'll just use myself as an example. I would rather pay for quality products. I'll spend great money on quality products. Because there's a respect for that, you know, and it says so much about the person and the values and the standards.
I think beyond even like a level above the quality products, it's the energy of the person delivering them and the conviction and the real know-how is what people pay for. Because clearly, as we said at the start, people don't know what a quality product looks like because that's subjective, right? There's subjectivity and there's objectivity, but the non-subjective piece is the energy behind the conviction of the person carrying out the delivery of the product.
It's the energy of a person who has what it takes to get good at a thing. I like those people. I want to be around those people. I got a lot of respect for those people. Like you think about, I don't know, I think about someone who's want to fix my car or do something on my house or whatever, you know, or a door chef, and they're really good. I'm like, I almost, yes, I'll pay you to do the thing, but I also want to chat to you. I'm interested in those people. I'm like, I like the energy of people that have respect for what they do and they're interested and they go to the depths to get good. Like, and the reason, you know, right now, it's so things are so easily attainable, and it's easy to get a barbering certificate. It's easy to market your stuff. It's just easy. Now, I always say this for marketing and all these things. Like, imagine if you had to pay for it again. Like, imagine if you had to pay for social media and to market on social media, to put a post on social media. Maybe people would try a bit harder, you know? Maybe people would try, because it's so free and so easy. People just don't give a shit. They're like, okay, well, I can just put up a picture of a fade and get clients and charge them and whatever, which is great. I'm not saying you shouldn't. But yeah, what energy does it carry? And then what happens is, what's the longevity in that? And what we see is a lot of people, it doesn't have legs in it.
Well, as one of our coaches says, I heard him say yesterday, humans have a very, very good inbuilt bullshit detector. And it's very easy to know when somebody knows what they're doing and somebody doesn't. You know, like when we approach a haircut, I'll comfortably say it. Like when I'm approaching a haircut with 99% of clients, I would say the only people I struggle with the conviction with is afro hair, because I just haven't done enough of it. I can still do it nice, but I'm a bit more conservative with my approach. But give me most haircuts, and it's the breakdown of the process and the conviction in each step and knowing where I'm going next and the method behind it. That in itself gives the client such a level of safety and security and a good feeling that it speaks for itself. There's no like guessing. That in itself is a high quality service and product. You know, if you go to some of the best steak restaurants, for example, in the world, what's that Salt Bay guy? Like, it's a performance. It's a whole thing that people go there for. There's no like, the chef wouldn't be like in the middle of it. What do I do next? Do I keep going over this part? Do I keep going over that part? There's none of that. It's like, it's decided upon at the start. There's a level of mastery to it. People will still pay for that level of mastery, and new clients will feel it.
And yeah, no, I do see something on the other side of the coin as well now, though, because it's easier to market your services and easier to put out your work out there. I think it's getting harder. People aren't paying for the mastery as much, because they're just paying for the person that's marketed the best, which is fine. And there's such a saturated sea of people. But yeah, I think it always will boil down to a quality product and a level of mastery.
But you know, the human bullshit detector also exists for ourselves, you know, and I think for the energy of the stylists themselves, it pays to just get really good at doing the thing and understanding it to a deep level, so that you can focus on the other things. And that's what we ultimately tried to do with the 3-day course, is get people to a level of understanding where they give the thing a different meaning and they can hold their own when it comes to any conversation, when it comes to any haircut. Because there must be a level at times with these really good marketed barbers who have a limited skill set and understanding of hair at large. There must be times where they feel uncomfortable and there's a level of, I guess, pretending going on, or there's a level of like just fake it till you make it. That fake it till you make it thing is necessary. Like, yes, I would say there's a level of it needed in order to kind of get some reps in, but like to keep that up forever is just unnecessary. At a certain point, you can just pay for the information and get there quicker.
Yeah.
But that takes a level of humility, and it's the humility ingredient that's missing from most people's lives that actually gets them to the next level. It takes a season of humility sometimes to get ahead.
And it's just not thinking that you're done. You know, it's like, oh, you can do a skin fade now. You're not done. Like there's just so much more to learn. And I think the big thing there is just not judging that. It's like, it's okay not to know. Look at us. We are the prime examples of that. And that's where it goes 360 on that. It's like, you'll hear us talk about this a lot about, you know, trying to guide others into, you know, kind of cool ways to live our life and empowering ways to live our life. But we are the living examples of that. There are so many things that we don't know when it comes to marketing and different things we want to know in our business. So we pay for the help. We have coaches in all corners, 3 to 4 different coaches all the time, giving us the guidance. If there's anything we don't know, how do we do it? Boom, we get the answer. Anything we don't know, boom, we get the answer. And that's a life well lived, if you ask me, because this is the thing. It's like to think we've just got it right now. Like to think that the Edgar and some little scratches in your hair is the answer, is done, is such, like, it's very small-minded, because there's been hundreds of years of haircutting before this point, and there's going to be thousands of years of haircutting after this point.
You know what it's like? It's like one-hit wonders. Like when a single is out, like a song, and it's just really popular for like a season, and then you never hear the artist again. Yeah, it can be a little bit like that. Whereas I prefer the evergreen approach, you know, and just being there always.
Yeah,
be who you want to be, Drake, or, you know, one of these one-hit wonders. Like,
exactly.
You know, now I think Drake is the most popular and successful artist of all time, like in terms of like the stats, you know.
Yeah.
Has had the most number ones, most albums sold, whatever it is. Do you want to be that guy, or do you want to be the guy who comes in and has one Christmas hit and gets paid? Well, the Christmas hits are kind of good, actually. I wouldn't mind one of those. Must do as much work. Every year you get the royalties. Yeah.
I think the big one is, it just depends on your strategy, right? Like it depends.
And your goal. What's your goal?
What's your goal? Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's no right and wrong in all of this. It's just, I guess the thing to think about coming away from this podcast is getting new clients is one thing, curating them is another thing. And just sometimes stop before you start running and have a look at where the destination is, because if you don't know where that is, you're going to keep going forward with stress. Work backwards from where it is that you actually want to go. That will help you identify the types of clients that you really want in your chair.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just taking people for the sake of taking money, and you're not thinking about the longer term effects.
And I think, you know, a few questions to ask yourself at any point in your career, every 3 months, every 6 months, every year, is like, do I need new clients or more clients? Why do I need more clients or new clients? And you can give that any meaning you want. And then where am I going to get them, and how am I going to get them? That's the big questions. And once you can join the dots on those, you've got a strategy for life. You've got a strategy for life. Do I need them? Yes or no? Why do I need them? I'm getting bored, or I'd like to raise my prices, and the whole price raising formula, I can expect some drop off, so I'm going to have to replace some of the holes. You know, where am I going to find them? Okay, well, they spend most of their attention on social media. Okay, so I'm going to have to go to Instagram or Facebook. And how am I going to do that? I'm going to market with the most relevant content, bringing value. Cool. You got a formula for life. Like, you keep rinsing and repeat that formula, you'll have it for life.
Yeah. Just make sure that you grow with the people that you want to grow with, you know?
Yep. And it's a little check-in for yourself every now and then. Little check-in for yourself.
Nice. So hopefully that's given everybody some stuff to think about. Until next week, where we speak about some more interesting topics related to what we do. But yeah, I mean, look, don't know what this episode's going to be called yet. You know, the kind of objective of the episode was to talk about getting more clients and the importance of that. But I think there's some precautions around it as well, and the precautions and the importance of getting new clients, because sometimes just getting new clients isn't always a good thing if it's not well thought about. Because, you know, we all want more until it becomes overwhelmingly more. You know, what if your business just absolutely 10x'd overnight? One of your Instagram posts went to 10 million views, and all of a sudden you had all these clients flooding through, and then every single client that you did was a new client, meaning you had to do a new consultation with them and meet new expectations. And that's a lot of energy. Is that how you want to live your life? What do you do with the clients that have been loyal to you all up to this time? Like, there's a lot of factors, right? There's a lot of factors to take into consideration, and each and every individual's journey, anyone who's listening to this, everyone's thing is going to be a little bit different. So, you know, this is just a open conversation from two guys who help people with this stuff in a coaching perspective, but also have been through it themselves and now can overlook it and oversee it from a place of, we're not in that race anymore. We're not trying to get more clients to cut their hair. So now we can actually bird's eye view it. And it's very hard to take advice, I believe, and said it last week in the podcast, from people who are in the thing, because sometimes when we're in something, we're emotionally invested in it too much, and we can't see beyond our emotions. Our emotions are the things that actually blind us the most in this world. Our emotions basically make us drunk. And when we're emotional, we can sometimes see what the reality is of what's going on. So that's why we enjoy discussing it on here. Because ultimately, what's going to happen when we discuss it to this degree, we're going to remove some of the limits and become unlimited. That's it. Thanks for tuning in. Let us know what your key takeaways were. It would be nice to have more people join the conversation and let us know what your takeaways were from the podcast. You know, if this was your favorite episode, if you got something out of it that you're going to action straight away, let us know what that is. The more you guys let us know, the more we can share value with you. So do it. If it's not for you, it's for other people. See you next week.